Hey, good morning, Eastern Oregon, and welcome to this December 19th version of AM Live on EOA, your connection to Eastern Oregon. All of our stuff is on the EOA network, and you can find that link tree at eoa.network. That will take you to a place where you can find the locations of our Facebook, Roku, YouTube, Instagram, and also stuff on podcast there. So, hey, thanks for being with us. Here in just a bit, we are going to have BMCC's president, Mark Browning, with us. Looking forward to that.
Morning.
Morning, man. How are you?
What is today? First Friday. First Friday already.
You know,
We're like a week away from Christmas.
We're less than a week away. Yeah.
You probably got all this because you got kids coming today. So.
You know, Christmas Eve, Christmas is next Wednesday, and I just cannot. God. I don't know. It's like short.
So it's like less than 2 weeks in 2025 here.
Yeah. And so so I have kids. Tanya's kids are coming. Tanya's daughter's coming in tonight, and her family. Yeah. And so, but she had to remind me, time
just flies.
I got stuff to do at the house still before they get in.
TJ, good morning.
Yeah.
Bud, good morning. Hopefully you're doing well, Bud.
Help.
Yeah, Bud. We got Bud here. He's
all right.
Home. It's good to see you, Bud.
Yeah.
And TJ, we are actually live today. Obviously, I mean, you aren't talking to a video rendition of me today. You're talking to the real me.
Yeah.
I had to hop on there the other day when we did a replay and say, "Hey, this
isn't live." Yeah. No. Yeah.
Of course, all the people want to ask the questions when we're not live, and then when we are live, they're crickets.
That's right.
Yeah.
But hey, TJ and Bud are here today.
Yeah. Yep.
So, all right. Well, hey, you want to do sports?
Let's do it.
Yep.
AM Sports Report brought to you by Northwest Furniture and Mattress. Discover the difference at Northwest Furniture and Mattress, where quality, style, and community come together. From American-made designs to exclusive discounts for veterans, they are here to make your home truly yours. Visit them today for exceptional furniture and unmatched service. You can give them a call at 541-963-5440. That's Northwest Furniture and Mattress right here in LeGrand. Big red rocking chair on Elm, off Adams, right here in LeGrand. Congratulations to LHS senior Marty Anderson. She recently signed to continue her academic career and her athletic career at College of Idaho. Boo to that. But thumbs up to continuing her, athletic and academic career, but I'm never going to root for the Yotes. So I promise you that. The photo was courtesy of the Oregon Lightning Facebook page. LHS boys basketball went on the road to Vail and got their first win of the season last night, 66-54. They are currently 1-5 on the season, and they play Gooding in Parma, Idaho today at noon. The LHS girls ran their record up to 4-1 with a 40-28 home win versus Vail 2 nights ago. So that would have been, Tuesday night. They play Saturday at 2 p.m. versus North Marion right up here at the high school gym. LHS boys wrestling hosted the Milenburg over the weekend, and it was a very successful Milenburg for LeGrand. After 2 days of wrestling, LeGrand came out on top of the 16-team field. They had 4 individual champions. Colton Livingston at 138, Tommy Belding at 157, Dex Dunlap at 215, and Kenai Huff at heavyweight, 285. I guess people are moving away from calling it heavyweight in the woke world, so I'll call it 285.
Okay.
I guess it offends people now. I don't understand why. You're the heavyweight. It's always been called heavyweight. At the same time, the LHS girls wrestling team was hosting their annual home tournament this weekend, the Safeway Buckle Classic. This tournament was really cool, actually. Safeway helps put it on, and the lady who runs Safeway, Mrs. Krantz, she brings in her employees, and they volunteer, and they do a really good job. The LHS girls topped the 20-team field and walked away with 5 buckles for individual championships. Madison Cathy at 100, Kirsten Azure at 110, Avery Robinson at 115, Lindy Isaacson at 125, and Paige Allen at 145. Paige Allen also got her 100th career high school win as a wrestler, which is a milestone that not a lot of people achieve. So congratulations to her. EOU men's and women's basketball both dropped games to College of Idaho at home over the weekend. The EOU men, though, they turned it around on Monday, and they played shared back and back with Florida College, which is the old grad assistant at EOU, took over that team this year as the head coach. EOU won that game 91-77. Both the men and the women's team travel to Lewiston tomorrow for games against LCSC, and then they turn around and play Walla Walla in College Place on Saturday. And finally, congratulations to Kiana Mack and Ashton Bales from the EOU volleyball team. This week, they were both named first-team All-Americans for this past volleyball season. It's the first time EOU volleyball has ever had two first-team All-Americans in the same year. The rankings, the postseason rankings came out yesterday for volleyball for the NAIA, and EOU finished the season as the number 6 team in the country. AM Sports Report brought to you by Northwest Furniture and Mattress. Go check them out. The Daggett family do a lot for this community, so, close that circle. I always talk about it. They help bring me to you, and so I help bring you to them.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Let's take a look outside. It's the weather. The weather yesterday was mild.
Wow, it was like 55 degrees.
I know
yesterday.
it was weird. Yeah, and it looks like I had a little bit of frost on my window this morning.
But it's not bad.
No, nope.
Those that are wishing for a white Christmas,
Yeah.
not this year.
No, our kids from Texas are coming tonight, and they always want something different than Texas weather. It's not optimistic yet. So let's look at that weather graphic, Bennett. So, 45, and then it looks
It's
like
not even getting cold enough to snow.
Yeah, looks like it's in the 40s.
Yeah.
Clear through next week.
Yep.
So,
Wow, that's crazy. It's December 19th, and it's 46 degrees today.
Yeah.
45 degrees, and it was 55 yesterday.
Yeah. Hey, so let me tell you about one of our sponsors, Bowman Trucking. We are helping with their social media. And right now, if you go to the Bowman Trucking Facebook page, there is a drawing. It's a line drawing, and you can have your kids color that. And there's information on that post on how to submit that. They're going to be giving away some goodies. The age bracket is 0 to 6 and 7 to 12. Really appreciate Bowman Trucking and for what they do. That's one of their trucks that's in a line drawing. And thank you, Sarah Marcotte, who is the executive director of LeGrand Main Street Downtown, for doing that drawing. You may or may not know what an amazing artist she is. All right, so here in just a minute, we will have BMCC's president, Mark Browning, with us right after this.
Eastern Oregon is full of interesting people. With interesting minds and interesting things to say. Here at EO Live, we're committed to connecting you to these intriguing people with EO Talks. We let our special guests share their ideas and life experiences with deep, open, engaging, and inquisitive conversations. You'll also be informed in depth on some of the most recent and relevant events, issues, and more. EO Talks on EO Live, your connection to Eastern Oregon, now on Roku.
You're talking about Steve's buddy?
All right, we're back with Mark Browning, president of BMCC. Hey, thanks, man, for making the trip over this morning.
My pleasure. It was a beautiful drive over this morning. Watching the sun come up over the blues, that's not a bad way to get the day started.
That's right. Yeah, and Mark, we've connected a number of times.
Yes.
You spoke recently at LeGrand Rotary.
Yeah.
And yeah.
It was nice to have an invitation to come over and just thoroughly enjoyed it. Love talking obviously about the college, but just about life here in Eastern Oregon in general, and we just really enjoy those opportunities.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about you first.
Uh-oh.
And you've had a little bit. I mean, this environment is not strange to you.
I have spent some time in studios.
But
before.
but start from Montana
Yeah,
and go clear to where you are now.
I'm a farm kid from western Montana. Grew up on a farm 5 miles south of Stevensville on the East Side Highway. So about 30 minutes outside of Missoula. Born and raised there. My parents raised cattle and sheep and hay and grain. Had a hardware store, lumber yard for a while. You know, typical rural America. You do 14 different things to try to make it go. At the end of my freshman year, we moved to eastern Idaho, over to Rigby, and that's in the Idaho Falls area. So I finished high school there, spent a lot of time in eastern Idaho, a lot of time in private business, spent 23 years in broadcast between radio and television, and then I had to grow up and get a real job.
Here we are.
Here we are. So yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it. Learned a ton. It was had some amazing opportunities. You know, we've been chatting about folks and interviews and just the kinds of things that you're able to do as a young kid. For me, the dream was I used to listen to a little tiny AM transistor radio late at night, and you could get the big stations on the skip, right? I could get KFI out of Los Angeles, and I could get Omaha and St. Louis, and you'd hear all these, and the voice of Chick Hearn doing the Los Angeles Lakers.
Yeah.
That was my inspiration.
That's what I grew up on too.
Yeah.
San Diego didn't have a team, so the Lakers were
Lakers were your team.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And that was me. It was 72, and it was Wilt and Gail Goodrich and Jerry West and Happy Hairston, and that idea to have the best seat in the house, to be at the game, that was my dream, and I was able to do that for a lot of years.
So
pretty
then
lucky.
sports was one of the things that you
Sports.
like. Yeah,
that was my entry in. I was live morning radio, little FM station in eastern Idaho, and then made $3 an hour. Was killing it, right? 4-hour shift. It was awesome. So to make a little extra money, the general manager said, "Hey, do you know anything about sports?" Well, yes, sir, I do. I need somebody to do the high school basketball games. I can do that. I'll pay you $10 a game. Wait, you're going to pay me to go to the game? Are you kidding me? It's awesome. And that's how my sports career got started.
wow.
Yeah.
All right, and so then and we were looking at your bio yesterday. You did weather somewhere along the line.
Yeah. So I made a transition out of radio into television,
Okay.
and the opening was for a weekend weather person. And I'm like,
You don't strike me as a weather.
I'm not, here. I'm a farm kid. I'll walk outside.
Was the green screen tall enough for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're pretty tall. Yeah.
Barely.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I'll walk outside and see which way the clouds are coming. Maybe we'll, thank goodness for the Associated Press and the National Weather Service. But yeah, that led into sports, and did sports for a number of years, and then eventually transitioned into news.
Okay.
And did everything. So was, anchor, producer, executive producer, and ended up news director at CBS, and so had a chance to do it all.
So your last gig was in Boise, right?
In Boise at the CBS. Yeah, I was news director.
Is that
there.
7 or 10?
2?
2. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the channel where we lovingly would say, "Oh, look, Channel 7's got a test pattern on," and everybody's calling themselves going, "Why does Channel 7 have a test pattern on?" versus actually tuning to us who were live on the air.
Right.
So,
Yeah. No, it was. No, I worked for Channel 6 in Nampa.
okay, so
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I was when I was in college. I went to Northwest Nazarene.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was funny because I only worked there 6 months, and I started on the weekend.
Yep.
Which is the weekend is that's the low. Yeah.
That's rookie short season A. That's where you come in.
It is. Yeah.
Guys are
Yeah.
rough,
And so and then I made my way to the regular evening news and stuff, but. Man, after doing that for 6 months, it's like I don't ever want to do TV again. Yeah, and here we are.
And here you are.
Yeah,
It's actual work.
Well,
And I don't think most people understand the prep and just the coordination that it takes to produce live television.
no, and as you know, the live evening news is like a dance.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the sports report that he
Yeah.
just did, only 3 or 4 talent people all
Yep.
doing the same thing, and
You really have
Yeah.
I think that's a great way to put it. It's a choreography of close to 20 people
Right.
who have to mesh perfectly.
Yeah.
You cannot have 2 left feet.
no,
And when the red light goes
yeah,
at 5 seconds before the top of the hour, and you sign off at 35 past the hour, everything has to fit perfectly.
no. I remember. So we had a sports guy, and sports guys are typically kind of hotheads. But so we had a sports guy when I was working there, and I mean the show would start, the evening news would start, and he wouldn't even be on the set until.
Oh no, you don't come on until 17, 18, maybe 20 after.
Yeah.
You don't
I mean,
get,
and so
you don't get
so
access
he would
to the
he would
edit bay
yeah.
until
I mean,
news
we would
is
go to
gone.
the break before the sports. And
Oh, he'd still be
he would come
working.
in and sit down.
Yeah. No, that's typically you're last at the table.
Right.
So to edit most of your highlights, you're editing from about 55. So Mountain Time, you edit from about 9:55 to 10:15. Run your tapes in the back. Well, now they would send the file, but,
Right.
and get on set and go,
Yeah.
and hope that the weather person didn't take all your
Right,
time,
right.
because that's completely unscripted.
Right.
I always love that. You sit down and you have 3.5 or 4 minutes, whatever your time block was, and well, we're about a minute and a half over.
Now you have
Well,
2
what do I
minutes.
got to cut?
And
that I just spent
now
time
you're cutting
preparing.
stuff.
Yeah.
And you've been out in the community, and summertime was classic, right?
Yeah.
You've gone out and you've shot a Babe Ruth game, and these kids are so excited at 13 or 14 years old that they're going to be on the highlights, and you have 30 to 40 seconds worth of highlights, and you get 12 seconds some
Yeah.
kid. Then you run into mom at the grocery store the next day.
Yeah.
And mom's going to let you know about your producing skills. And you're like, but Ken Torrey took all the time and weather talking about something in Mexico. They don't care.
Yeah. No,
You won't imagine. You can't even imagine the amount of messages I get.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
In the environment now with instant texting, instant messaging,
Oh.
people sending you highlights.
Right.
In some ways, I think getting final scores and some of the things that most folks don't think about. Wow, well, they don't call it Twitter. You can jump on Twitter, you can jump on social media and find scores.
Right.
Yeah.
We had a fairly elaborate network of a phone list that we would call Friday night football and then basketball. What do people do after the game? Go get something to eat.
Yeah, they sit around. Yeah.
So,
Talk about the
in
game.
remote eastern Idaho, I would call the Frost Top in Ashton because that was the one place that was open after the game, and I would call and get the score. Because the coaches, they're not thinking about calling in.
No,
That's not on their radar.
Yeah.
So in some ways, I think it's easier now, but the downside of that is we're also connected that a parent is probably texting you during your sportscast saying, you didn't get his best shot, or she had a goal from 5 feet further out with a better angle, and I need this to help put on their highlight reel, and so you're much more connected and much more exposed. I really do admire those practicing the craft nowadays because I think it's harder. I
Yeah.
really do.
In Eastern Oregon, you can't really rely on Twitter or social media for
'cause of-
scores.
yeah.
But I have a list of parents.
That's what
and
we do.
People that go to games
Yeah.
that I can rely on for pictures and
Yeah.
for scores every time. You know what I mean? And I know they're coming.
And it's a little bit emblematic of how our communities come together because we all kind of have to support each other, whether it's through sports and reporting or just community in general. That's one of the things I love about living in a smaller town. I love that about growing up in western Montana and eastern Idaho. It's very similar here.
Yeah.
We depend on each other because we can trust each other.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that.
Well, let's talk about how you started your college career at 39.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah,
Yeah.
which is
Took me
which
a while
is-
to grow up.
Which is super unique. Yeah. And so how did you get from that to being president of BMCC?
I was working in television. I was the evening anchor. I anchored the 5, 6, and 10 o'clock news. I was the main anchor. I was the executive producer. And my dear sweet bride of 25 and a half years, not then, but now, one day we're sitting around and she said, okay, what's your plan? About? And she goes, when you get old and fat, what are you going to do? And I said, well, I don't know. And she said, they're not going to keep you on the air forever. New talent comes along. And she was brilliant, is brilliant, because she used a sports analogy. She said, eventually they replaced Terry Bradshaw.
Yeah.
She goes, what are you going to do? And I said, well, I think I'll move into management and then, you know, manage in this. And she said, well, you're going to need a degree. Well, I have all this experience. And she said, and keep in mind, this is the 90s and the early 2000s when ownership of media was changing rapidly. The locally owned mom and pop or the small regional station was going away. They were being bought up by bigger entities. And she said, you know, you've been very fortunate, but you've known the people that you've worked for, but that's not going to be the case 5 years, 10 years from now. And don't you think that if you could check the degree box to be more competitive, that's going to help you, plus the 20-some years experience? Yeah, you're right. So we were living in Pocatello, and I went to Idaho State University as a 39-year-old, almost 40-year-old freshman. Sat in lecture halls with 150 other students and looked around and went, what in the you-know-what am I doing here?
Yeah.
Completely overwhelmed, completely intimidated by the process. Wished we'd had a community college. Closest one was Idaho Falls, 55 miles away. Couldn't really make that work. I had a 5-month-old. We had 3 boys. The youngest was, just a little guy. So couldn't do that back and forth. And so we made it work. Kim worked full-time during the day, 8 to 5, and I worked 1:30 to 11. And so went to school in the morning, did homework at night, and we went 4 years straight through.
Wow.
And I really believe that her name needs to be on that degree as well.
Yeah.
And got done and thought, okay, this is it. Graduated, got an offer to be a news director in Boise. Went, okay, this is the transition. We went. Loved the people I worked with. Loved my general manager. Hated the job. One of the worst jobs I've ever had. Because it went from telling stories and being involved with people and character and all the things we love about this part of it to managing contracts, hearing from agents who were complaining that their client wasn't getting enough airtime. Your client's not good and they make $12 an hour. Don't worry, why do you have an agent? In your first job out of college, and dealing with that kind of thing, and it really took the joy out of it. And I said, you know what? No, I'm not going to keep doing this. So, an opportunity came up to do communications and legislative work for the Idaho State Board of Education. It was a guy I'd known for a number of years, and he actually called me. He said, "Hey, you got any reporters that you want to get out of the market from another station? I'm hiring." And I said, "Okay, when do you want it?" And he said, "I'm going to be looking tomorrow afternoon." So I walked over. And showed up. 2 weeks later, went to work and really found kind of a niche. I liked it. I didn't think I would like that line being in public service, but it was fascinating to me. I thought I understood how the legislature worked, having covered it for years. And then you get on the other side as an agency, and you really find there's a whole nother component to all of this, and it really became fascinating. That led into, well, you're working in education, you need an advanced degree, and I said, no way. You know what? This kid was lucky to get through one. I'm not going again. And over time, it's like, okay, well, I'd like to do that. And within the educational world, to have credentials gives you an ability to open a door. So I started work on the master's, one class at a time. Got through that, and then my best friend goes, "Let's go do our doctorates." And I said, "You need to go see a doctor. You're not well. I'm not doing that." And we started. I nearly got thrown out. We were talking in class, felt like 5th grade. And he went on and finished, and I dropped out for 3.5 years. I said, you know what? I've spent too many nights away from home covering games. My youngest is in middle school. I want to be home at night. I want to be there. And so I did. We took that time. And then when he got in high school, they don't want to spend any time.
No, they don't care.
Get out of the house. So at that point, I had a president I worked with who was really encouraging me to go that path, and so I jumped back in and did the program 5 years, and he really encouraged me when this opportunity came up over in Pendleton and Blue Mountain. He said, "You need to take a look at that." He goes, "That's a community where you and Kim would fit. That's a school that does some things that you're very familiar with," and so it worked out for us. That's how we ended up here.
Wow. And so how long have you been there now?
I'm in my 4th year.
Okay.
So it's kind of hard to believe sometimes, because in some ways it feels like, wow, we just barely unloaded the U-Haul. In other ways it's like, man, we've been here a long time.
And this is your first college president gig?
Yes. I've been vice president at a couple of other colleges before that. I'd been at College of Western Idaho, Nampa, Boise, and then before that I was at North Idaho College up in Coeur d'Alene. I was vice president there, and then at the state board before that. So
how was that adjustment from jumping into education when you've been in these other
Yeah.
worlds all that long?
Most that you talk to when people come out of to day-to-day media and they go into other industries, they liken it into trying to swim in peanut butter. It's just so slow.
Right.
What I found was there was actually quite a bit going on.
Yeah.
And while you weren't turning out 10, 12 different versions of copy, you were working on multiple things at the same time.
Right.
And I actually found that when it came time to do a news release or something that we would put out, that it would all just kick right back in.
Yeah.
And so I enjoyed that. But the learning of all the new stuff really kept me really engaged. So I have to say, for the first year and a half, I had to stop watching the evening news because I couldn't watch it just as a news consumer. I'm looking at all the other things that you don't see.
Right.
I still, to this day, and I have not, well, it was 2007, but I haven't done sports since '98. Still to this day on a Friday night in September, I get a little twitch.
Yeah.
I'm like, I need to be on the sideline somewhere.
Yeah, you should be cold. There ain't no reason to be sitting in this house all warm on a September
I need to be
night.
out there. So I get an occasion to do some kind of fill-in substitute work, like one a year. And
Yeah.
it's great. Keeps my appetite wet, and I just love it. It's just, it's play for me.
Yeah. So we do this, and then we also do professional video production.
Right.
And they're two different.
Oh,
they're two different games. You
very
know,
different worlds.
because here we have the show's supposed to start at a particular time, and you're finessing with stuff, but at some point it's like it's going to have to do for this
We
morning.
got to shut her down.
Right. Yeah. And so, but video production, when you're doing it commercially,
Yeah.
I mean that's more of the swimming and peanut butter stuff.
It really is.
I mean, you're finessing and
Yeah.
working with stuff. Yeah.
And it's, hockey and basketball.
Yeah.
There's some similarities,
Yeah.
right? But they are very, very different.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate people who practice the craft
Yeah.
because it is a craft. It's a talent.
So were you able to coming to a college as the president, do you feel like you've been able to move some stuff that normally would have been stuck in quagmire?
Yeah.
And it's like we gotta have this going by the end of this year. Or
I
whatever.
think so. It's a good question. It's a fair question, and it speaks to what really is the role of the president nowadays.
Yeah.
For decades, even going back over 100 years, traditionally college presidents, 2-year or 4-year presidents have come up through faculty ranks or sometimes through what we call student services, so they've been in charge of financial aid, advising, those kinds of things. These positions are really external facing. You are the chief storyteller for your institution. You are the primary person to interact with your legislature, your governing board, business and community members. And so it really is a communication storytelling position. And we're seeing that change now. You're seeing more people who have taken that route. One of your big jobs is your fundraiser.
Yeah.
You go ask for a lot of money every day.
Yeah.
And you work with your foundation or other folks that you have in your organization. And so the skill sets are different.
Yeah.
You might be a terrific geologist, but you don't have to practice those skills a lot when you're you're really running a business enterprise. And I look at Dr. Ryan here or Dr. Young in Ontario. Myself, we're running multi-million-dollar operations with hundreds of employees, with intricate contracts and different things that, it gets back to that 20 people trying to put the newscast together. You're putting together several hundred people to make this work so that the student who has made the decision, I use this analogy quite a bit, when a student says, I'm going to come to EOU or to BMCC, they, in essence, are saying, I believe your messaging and your marketing. And in most cases, they're taking everything they have and they push it into the middle of the table. All in.
Yeah.
I'm all in. You tell me that if I come and do this, I'm going to have a better life. I'll have a career that will provide for me. I'll have a rewarding job. I'm all in. And they show up. Then we have to deliver.
Yeah.
We have to deliver that newscast. We have to deliver that finished video production product. And that's where it takes all the different skills to pull that together. So from my role, as we try to move Blue Mountain forward, what's your organization look like?
Yeah.
And when I came in 21, the institution had gone through a number of pretty rough years. And if you go back even further, we'd been losing enrollment consistently for 10 years, to the point that we were 1/3 the size that we were previously. At our peak at 2011, 2012, we were 1/3 the size. We had to make some significant adjustments. We had to really change the way that we looked at how we approach our business. And that's hard for education because, we have the degrees, we have the robes,
Right.
And we got this. Well, the reality is we're the last industry to really be forced into the revolution. And what I mean by that is, think about what banking has gone through, finance. Think about tech. Think about manufacturing. Think about transportation. Think about communications, media.
Yeah.
So different now. And education had kind of resisted that by saying, this is the tried and true way, this is what works, you go do this, you do this, and this is what comes out. And we had nibbled around the fringes with some things, but we really hadn't embraced it. And then here comes the pandemic. We can't meet in person.
Forced.
We were forced into it. And we figured out we could do it. And in some ways we could do it really well. Now, I will be the first to tell you, it's hard to do a welding lab online. We're getting better at
Virtual
biology.
reality.
Yeah, and we do a lot of that. There are other disciplines, lecture type classes. There's no reason you can't do those in a hybrid environment.
Right.
There's still great value in being in person, which is what we really try to do. But my point being is that we got pushed into the arena now, and you have to embrace it. If you don't, you do so at your own peril.
Yeah.
So as we try to move Blue Mountain forward, we look at, okay, we can no longer continue to try to be, the community college is one of the great American inventions. They really don't have community colleges anywhere else in the world except here.
Huh.
They have technical schools, but they don't have a comprehensive community college system. We try to be everything to everyone. We can't continue to do that. We simply can't. We don't have the population. We don't have the resources. So what can we do that's most relevant to our area, to the students who come to us, and to connect, and to still be able to deliver when that student says, I'm all in? How do we deliver for that? Mm-hmm. And I'm really proud of what we've done. We've put our budget back on track. We've put money into reserves the last 3 years. We've been bleeding money for 6 years prior to that. Enrollment's on the way up. We're now in our 4th consecutive year of enrollment growth. We are not flush and fat and happy by any means, but we're better. We're better. And so, and that's a testament to the people who work there.
Yeah.
They're looking at it and going, we have to change, we have to adapt, and we have to make those moves and sacrifices very similar to what our students do, so that we're here for them and they're here for us.
Yeah. So you've said before, for people who might not understand how the community college fits into, because that is fairly unique.
Yeah.
And it took me a while before I figured out, I was like, how does that fit into the mechanism of public education? And I've heard you say we're not a competitor of EOU.
We're not. No.
Yeah, kind of help me understand that stuff.
Eastern Oregon's, we say this all the time, we're really unique, right? But we really are. If you look at many of the other community college districts or areas, we're a little bit different. We have this donut right in the middle, Union County, right?
Yeah.
Part of our district, but not part of our taxing base. So community colleges assess a property tax to the local property taxpayer, which helps pay for the operation. That enables us to keep our tuition very low and our costs low. And that's just the nature of what it is.
Right.
The state does not fund us like they fund EOU. And just for the record, they don't fund EOU like they ought to either. I hope. And Kelly,
Yeah,
they don't fund you like they
Kelly
need to.
Ryan has made that case.
Kelly, I'm with you on that
Yeah,
one,
right.
right?
Yeah.
But our tuition's about $140
Yeah.
per credit. Well, most 4 years, you're upper to 300 because you have a different infrastructure to support. Our district is Morrow County, Umatilla County, and then we hop over Union and we have Baker County.
Huh. Okay.
But then we're also assigned by the legislature for the entire service region, which includes Wallowa County and Grant County.
Okay.
along with Union. So we have these 6 counties that we're responsible for. We collect taxation from 3, and our mission is to provide comprehensive community college education, which is 2-year preparation for those students who choose careers that require a 4-year education. If you're going to be an accountant, if you're going to be a teacher, if you're going to do something like that, we provide the first 2 years, and then we partner here with EOU. And we work very closely with EOU and Dr. Ryan, and we have a great partnership that way. We have technical careers. If you want to be a welder, if you want to be a diesel tech, if you want to be a registered nurse, we have a 2-year business program that sets people up. You come in, you get it, you're done. We have 9-month certificate programs. We have some that are 6 weeks. So we have a real wide smorgasbord of an offering. But it is funded through property tax, tuition, and then we're about 24% funded by the state.
Okay.
So that's kind of how our work. We range all the way from, if you're headed west towards Portland and you get past Boardman and you're going a ways, and just before you drop down that hill into Arlington, that's the Morrow County border. We go from there to Huntington.
Okay.
We go from the Columbia River to Grant County and John Day.
Okay.
So 18,000 square miles. We're the largest district in the state. It's bigger than the state of Maryland. So
Wow.
but I love it because it's very diverse. You know, what students need in Joseph versus what you're looking for here versus what we see in Pendleton or John Day, very different.
Yeah.
And that, again, that variety, that's what keeps us going.
So where are your students from? Where are you
Primarily
seeing them
Eastern
come?
Oregon.
Okay.
And primarily this 6-county region, primarily Umatilla and Morrow County.
Yeah.
We have about 6% of our students come from outside of Oregon, and that would be Washington and Idaho. Of that, the vast majority from those 2 states.
Are most of those athletes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. We get ag students that come from other states with our ag program. Interestingly enough, not as many transfer to either EOU or OSU, but rather go to the University of Idaho in Moscow for ag.
Huh.
Which is kind of interesting. But yeah, we have what I believe to be a very strong athletic program, and we, NWAC rules, different than NAIA, we can only scholarship up to a certain percentage. And so the scholarships get to be parsed out. We have very few that will, you just don't do a, quote, full ride. You might get a mostly academic scholarship, a partial academic scholarship. We have a very good foundation that helps to piece all that together as well to help fill in. But it is more doable when you're talking with local and regional athletes. And that's really the mindset behind the community college, is to provide an avenue for your local and regional students to have that entry point into education. And I tell everybody all the time, not everybody needs to go to college, but you do need training. Right. Now, we provide a lot of training. Right. So, because I think college has become a term that has a little bit of a negative connotation to it for many of us in this region. It's like, I don't want to go to Eugene and sit in a lecture hall with 300 other students for biology. No, I don't. I did it in Pocatello with 150 others. I didn't like it. Didn't learn much, right? Right. I'd rather sit in a class with 17. Right. Right? But what do I need for my training? Young men right now are a real challenge in higher education because most are just going straight into the workforce. And it's hard to argue with them when they say, look, I can go make $30 an hour hanging sheetrock. Yes, you can. Yeah. What am I going to make with my degree? Are you going to make 20, 25? Maybe, depending on what field you choose. But what are you going to do when your back's broken? Yeah, when you're 45. When your knees 40, are shot, right, yeah. Right? Your hands are so crippled because of all the dust from the sheetrock. Or what are you going to do when you have grown your ability and you want to go out on your own? You want to hang your own shingle. You want to be your own contractor. Okay, you need some business training to know how to run the business. You know how to hang sheetrock and how to mud and tape it. How do you run the business side of it? Right. Well, come on back. We'll get you some business training. You'll learn about amortization and all these different things. So we're very much the on and off point of a road and a lifelong path, which requires a lot of patience and faith. Yeah. Because we are trained in this country, go to college, get a good job, you're done. Well, most now will change not just jobs, but careers 5 to 6 times, which requires training.
Right.
And that's why I find myself connecting more with you need training versus something else.
Yeah. So from your life experience, which is unique, that
Very.
you didn't start college
I
until
didn't.
later, right?
Yeah.
And so, and yeah, there's been this whole push over the last several years to get into the trades, which is not a bad thing because the trades have been, I mean, they haven't had enough workers
Right.
for a long
We
time.
still
Yeah.
don't. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But at the same time, now we've almost swung the other direction.
Yeah.
And President Ryan has sat where you sat, and she's made the case for, this is why you need,
Yeah.
in fact, in her words, she's like, I'm going to give you all a history lesson. That's her thing, because that's her. But no, so what is your what have you learned from that? You know, looking back on the life of just going through life with your experiences and gaining experiences, and then doing the education. What's the takeaway for you? Is like,
Yeah.
you understand where I'm going with that?
I do, and education will happen everywhere. I made the comment to somebody the other day that so much of what I use in my job, I learned before I went to college,
Right.
which might be a little bit of a damning statement, but my point is you can learn everywhere. And you can acquire skills. And now there are mechanisms for you to get academic credit for that. But learn every day, everywhere you go. Pay attention to people.
Right.
And I think that for me, that's the number one takeaway is find something that you connect with. I don't like the old cliche that says, find something, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. Work is work,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
This is work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
right.
exhausting at the end of the day,
Yes.
putting this thing on, right?
It's not fishing.
Well, and I'm exhausted after fishing because I spend the whole day trying to tie my fly on because I lose it. Anyway, but pay attention because you can learn everywhere.
Right.
And then take those experiences and put them together to say, okay, what really fuels me? And Kelly's right with history. Pay attention to what you've done. When you look at it from the outside, how do you go from a kid who worked in agribusiness making dairy feed to a part-time play-by-play guy to eventually full-time television to now a college president? What's the common theme between those? And there are some common threads, but early it's work ethic, it's understanding flow and production and having to prepare here so that this comes out here, right? Then it's storytelling, understanding the value of connecting people with information and opportunity. And that's what the job is now.
Yeah.
That's what So I've been really fortunate. Education changed my life. It changed. I never in a million years would have thought, one, I'd ever go to college, two, end up with 3 degrees, and never end up as a college president. Are you kidding me? No.
Right.
No.
Right. But the challenge of finishing a degree is different than probably any other challenge that you had along the way. Not that it was less challenging or
No.
more, but it was different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just different.
Yeah.
In so many ways, it is a test of just perseverance.
Right.
Especially in graduate programs.
Yeah.
It really is just, can you survive the grind?
Grind, yeah.
Do the work, you will survive.
Yeah.
I think about people with challenges and, they've lost an arm or they have crippling anxiety. That's a challenge, right? Me staying awake in an evening class after working all day and, trying to still contribute at 9 o'clock at night and then writing a paper. Yeah. That's why coffee was invented. I can do that. I can make that, right?
Right.
But appreciating the journey of being challenged, I think is key. And so that's really applicable to anything.
But the credibility that you gained from going to college put you in this chair right now. You wouldn't be here.
No.
Yeah. I mean, we'd still have an interesting conversation.
Sure.
As a news person.
Yeah.
But still,
I
your
tell
wife
people-
was right.
Yeah. Oh, on many levels. And she's
Her
Dutch,
insight
so
was superb.
in education especially, the alphabet soup means something.
Yeah.
I used to always joke that, the only people who love letters after their names more than people in education are realtors. God love you. But it makes a difference.
Yeah.
And doors are opened because you have demonstrated, I've done this. it gets you in the door.
Yeah. So I'm going to go back to the quagmire question, though.
Okay.
So has your previous experience kind of helped you cut through some of the quagmire that happens in education?
Yeah, being involved in family business, that you look at things and go, okay, sales are down, need to go up. Where do we make adjustments?
Right.
Looking at things from an operational standpoint, television news production helped me immensely.
Yeah.
Because you sit down with that rundown, and back in the day, it was a piece of paper.
Right.
And all right, here we go. The light goes on at 9:59:50, and we got to get to 10:35.
Right.
00. How do we do that? Step by step by step. And looking at that now from higher education, we have a student who comes in. How do we get them through to completion and employment?
Yeah.
Step by step by step. And so looking at the process of how you get there, I learned a ton. And
Yeah.
it's helped me a lot. I think probably the most valuable thing that it's given me is that I didn't grow up in it. So I have different experiences and different perspectives.
Yeah.
And for non-traditional students especially, I love talking to them. I love being out in the hall, walking to a building, and I'll see somebody who, is not right out of high school.
Right.
And it gives me an opportunity to say, hey, how you holding up? I know what you're going through. Let me tell you a story about a kid with really big ears and a bad haircut from Montana. And it gives me an opportunity to relate to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where do you want BMCC to go? What's kind of the next notch or the next thing that
Yeah.
you're trying to accomplish?
We need to not be EOU Junior and a replica of TVCC or Columbia Gorge or Columbia Basin or Walla Walla.
Okay.
We need to be unique in that we are a responsive organization that anticipates where we're going next. So I'm involved in a couple of national organizations, and people go, oh, Oregon, Portland. No.
Right.
No. And I said, we do three things really well. We do 3 C's really well. I said, you've probably heard of the Pendleton Roundup. I said, this is, Western, and I said, we do cowboys very well. I said, you can honestly go 10 minutes outside of town, go down 395 like you're going out towards Pilot Rock and headed out to Ukiah. You'll see actual cowboys riding, branding out in the field. It's the real deal. I said, have you had spaghetti or ziti or something recently? We do carbs very well.
Carbs?
We grow a lot of soft white wheat, some of the most productive ground in the country. So we do carbs very well. And now what we're doing is the cloud. Data centers. Amazon is a huge fixture on that side of the mountain.
Yeah.
Between data centers and how we manage that and store that, and we're training people to not only work with the servers and the data, but to run the plants. These Amazon plants are generally 4 buildings in a quad, 250,000 square feet each. It's 1 million square feet that they're managing, and it's temperature sensitive, it's moisture sensitive, and all the logistics of running a large scale plant. And so we do the cloud. And what I see is coming next, we have an emerging industry with unmanned air, with drones. What's next?
Yeah.
Where will rural healthcare go?
Yeah.
Because all of our communities, whether you're LeGrand, Ontario, Pendleton, Hermiston, we're all dependent on a certain number of healthcare providers. And none of us have quite figured out how to beat the aging game just yet. So we need these folks, right? And we're often, again, short season rookie A. New doctors come in, they train, and then they leave for a specialty or they move somewhere else.
Yeah.
How do we build a sustainable rural healthcare system that provides for the people here without going through that constant churn? And so working with, the Grand Ronds and the St. Anthony's and the St. Luke's in Baker. So what's emerging next? That's where we need BMCC to be, is more anticipatory and less, this is how we've done it. We have been largely a transfer institution for decades, and it's served us well. We're a transfer institution because we set students up before they come primarily to EOU or to some of the other schools. That doesn't cover what we need it to cover any longer in terms of our operation. So we're finding new ways to augment. We're doing more in high schools. with dual credit. We're doing way more now with non-credit customized training. So you may not get a Carnegie credit hour. Oh, I took a 3-credit class. I took 5 weeks of this, and now I can do this, and I have an industry credential or I have a completion. I use coding, programming as an example. Most software companies, they're not looking for a degree. What can you do? Sit down at a keyboard and show me what you can do. That's your interview.
Right,
Okay.
right.
Well, I went to probably the best example I have. It's not exactly computer related, but it's fiber splicing. As we try to connect Eastern Oregon more through high-speed fiber, somebody has to put the lines together. That is, and that's more than just put 2 butt ends together, duct tape them, cover them up and go. Oh no, it's way more than that. We do 2-day fiber splicing camps, 16 hours, 8 hours each day. That's a $35 an hour job when you're done.
Right.
And you're hired right there. So that kind of thing. And for us as an educational institution that we're measured by the state and the feds of how many graduates do we have to be more about what they're doing. We get paid on enrollment and the income, but it's shifting to what the outcome is. Mm-hmm. How many completers do you have and what are they doing? That's where we need to be.
Good. Yeah. So in our business, it's a lot of equipment heavy things.
Yeah.
And most of the stuff we can't afford or we
Yeah.
buy used or whatever
Yep.
the case might be.
Same here.
But I can look forward and go, okay, we really need to have that technology 5 years from now, or it's going to be a choke point. That's
Yep.
what I call it, is a choke point. Okay.
Yeah.
So looking at education, higher education generally in Eastern Oregon, what do you think is the choke point that's out there?
It's tech and it's access to tech. And
Okay.
here's why. So 20 years ago, let's just turn the century 2000. There were very few online courses. And there were no live online courses. If you did something online, somebody probably handed you a CD, you took it home, burned it to your hard drive, opened up, did the assignments, and sent them back.
Yeah.
Now, when we put up a course, let's say we have Speech 110, one of the fundamental courses that everybody has to take through their program. That instructor will have to deliver it in 5 different ways. So we'll put it up face-to-face, live in person. There will be a Zoom option where the student is live, but they're at home. There will be a hybrid option, which will mean, and then a high flex, which is, hey, the class meets Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Monday I can be there in person. Wednesday I gotta go to Tri-Cities, so I need to kind of do it later. Okay, so you download the recording, you watch it, you do the assignment. And then there's the completely asynchronous, meaning that the class is up all the time. I might do it at 1 o'clock in the morning because that's when I get off work at midnight.
Right.
That instructor has to then adapt their material for that course to be able to fit each of those modalities, and for the high flex and the hybrid that change within the term. It requires a lot, but the other side of it is it requires tech. So where's the course generated? Is the course generated at the college? Is it generated at one of the satellite centers in Baker or Milton Freewater or Hermiston or Boardman? Is it generated at the instructor's home? Do they have enough bandwidth to put it out live? And most importantly, does the student have enough connectivity to log on? Yeah. One of the things we really found during COVID here in Eastern Oregon is if you're right in town, you're probably okay. Other things, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
You're in trouble. Dial-up is a dream. So I think the choke point, and it's a good term for it, will continue to be tech. And it will be everything from streaming compression and servers to the receiving equipment on the other end for the student. And how do students who don't have the means, so 73% of our students are on some sort of financial aid, grant, loan, something. They probably don't have access to tech. How do we package that with them? Very similar, in a diesel program, your tools come as part of the program. Now you're going you pay, and your financial aid, depending on your situation, can't cover that. You need those tools to be able to learn that skill to do that job. the laptop, whether it's the hotspot, whatever it might be, that's an essential tool now in today's.
Interesting.
Yeah, you saw that during COVID. Like high
Big time.
schools, a lot of high schools were giving out hotspots. Like,
Yep.
hey, laptops as well. Most people have some device that can access, but internet, especially in rural areas. I mean, even today, Starlink helped out with that a little bit. But out, my aunt and uncle live 8 miles out Hunter Road, and their internet out there, they have the best you can get, and it is garbage.
Yeah, it's
It
tough.
really is.
And the screen makes a difference. So I can get it on my phone, but if I'm in a class that requires a little more physical space on the
Right.
screen, a laptop versus a desktop. And what we found during COVID was that we set up a lot of mobile hotspots, and students would come to the parking lot and log on. And they'd download their assignments, they'd go home, do them, come back and upload them. Well, that worked, for that year, but we can't continue to do that.
Right.
So we've got better connectivity in all of the areas. It's going to be such a key point. And I think finding the balance between online and in person. Right now, you talked earlier about kind of the pendulum swinging. Most of us are very heavy into online delivery of credits, and whether they're synchronous, asynchronous, hybrid, high flex, whatever they might be. I think it's going to come back a little bit, because I think as the COVID students move through and we get 10 or 15 years removed from, I was in high school when COVID hit, and so my immediate thought is I'm just going to take it online because it's easier for my schedule. I might look at that and go, biology, I kind of need to be in the lab, because while I can do it with virtual reality, I'm not learning as much. I'm more easily distracted with it. There might be some, political science courses. Yeah, I can do that online. But how do we keep, and from us, from an operational standpoint, how do we keep our infrastructure up to date, functional, and ready when so much is generated? And I think that's probably the biggest thing I hear from legislators, sometimes from people in the community, and certainly from the feds. Well, you're doing so much online, it doesn't cost you as much. It actually costs you more, because you're doing it now in 5 different modalities.
Right. Well,
and the tech.
and
required.
that's a huge burden to put on a professor who's been teaching the same course. Yeah, I mean,
Classic example, our youngest son is finishing up an engineering degree at a blue school out of state, at Utah State. He wanted to go into aerospace, got a great program. When COVID hit, his instructors are of a generation where they just said, I'm going to set up a camera in the back of the room, and my TA will upload it to YouTube. That's my online course.
That's how it started. Yeah. Right.
Absolutely worthless.
right.
That's not online delivery.
No.
Online delivery is interactive and engaging to the point where you're not on TikTok during the class because you're busy with your device doing something. That costs more.
Right.
And what we're really seeing now is we're stretching our people to the point that they're doing this all, in most cases, they don't have a teaching assistant, they don't have help. The next wave of instruction coming in is not going to do that. They won't have that boomer ethic, if you will.
Yeah.
And we see that. And, thankfully, somebody's changing the dynamic, right?
Yeah.
We've all seen the cartoon of the guy in one of the European countries that is being wheeled in for a surgery, and his email hits and it says, I'm having an appendectomy. I'll be back 3 months from now, pending recovery. And then there's the American panel where the guy's on his phone, he's texting with another device, someone's talking to him. I'm going in for emergency bypass surgery, so I may be out of touch for about 90 minutes. But I will log on and return your message as soon as the anesthesia wears off. Right? We've got to change that to where we're a little better that way.
Yeah. Well, Mark, thank you.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
It's been fun.
Yeah, we'll have
this.
you come back again.
I'd love to.
Yeah. And you should bring your wife.
She,
That would be an interesting conversation.
you know what? I'll tell her that you guys want to talk to her. That'll go over well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
that'll go over really well.
No. Thanks so much for being
My
here.
pleasure.
And yeah, again,
thank you.
we'll get you on the schedule, and if you
Love
want,
that.
if you want to come back on a regular basis,
Let's do.
like every quarter or something.
Would love that.
Yeah.
Thank
No.
you.
Thanks a bunch.
My
yeah.
pleasure.
Want to get us out
Let's
of here?
do it. On this day, December 19th, 1732, Benjamin Franklin, under the pseudonym Richard Saunders, begins publication of Poor Richard's Almanac. 1843, on this day, A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens is published. 6,000 copies were sold. That was a lot back then, 6,000 copies. 1998, the U.S. House of Representatives votes to impeach President Bill Clinton over the Lewinsky scandal. 2018, on this day, the first use of a drone to deliver vaccines to the island of Aromongo by UNICEF. 2019, on this day, the earliest fossilized trees, 386 million years old, are found at a quarry in Cairo, New York. 2023, on this day, science names anti-obesity medications that mimic the hormone GLP-1 that contains semaglutide, i.e. Ozempic, an example, their breakthrough of the year, which is crazy. A lot of people are on that nowadays, so Ozempic. The number one movie in America on this day in 1994, Disclosure, with Michael Douglas and Demi Moore. And then the quote of the day comes from Roy T. Bennett. Don't be pushed around by the fears in your mind. Be led by the dreams in your heart. One more time. Don't be pushed around by the fears in your mind. Be led by the dreams in your heart.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
That was
Thank you for
great.
Hey,
Yeah,
thank you.
I like that one.
Appreciate it.
Hey,
Yep.
my pleasure.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Christmas.
Yeah. So yeah, hey, we'll see you guys. We will do like a brief show next Tuesday. Kind of give a Merry Christmas shout out.
taking
but,
Thursday off.
Yep, but we'll see you then.